A wealthy magnate watched a homeless boy dancing with his disabled daughter, and everything shifted in that instant. A barefoot child had slipped past the gates of a grand estate, and what followed no one could have imagined. Then, all of a sudden, he began to dance. Not for coins, not for bread, but only to bring her a smile. That single choice set in motion events that would change all of their lives forever. Victor Harrington was among the richest men in the region, his empire spanning energy, real estate, and trade. People called him the alchemist. And yet, behind the walls of his vast mansion, his greatest struggle wasn't business, it was the silence of a daughter whose laughter he longed to hear again. Emily, once radiant and lively at just 8 years old, had been left paralyzed after a tragic accident that also claimed her mother's life. Her laughter, once music in the halls, had vanished, and now she sat quietly in her wheelchair, her spirit dimmed. Victor tried everything, surgeries abroad, therapies, treatments, but each attempt ended in heartbreak. Emily withdrew further into silence, and though Victor looked untouchable to the world, his heart broke more each day. But then, one warm afternoon, everything changed. Emily sat in the garden, her gaze lost beyond the gate, when a thin boy slipped through the hedge. His shirt hung in tatters, his knees marked by the streets, yet his eyes sparkled with mischief. Without a word, he began to dance. Clumsy, exaggerated, ridiculous moves. Arms flailing, spins so awkward they were hilarious. At first Emily only blinked, but then a tiny giggle escaped her lips. The boy stumbled on purpose, catching himself with dramatic flair. Emily clapped, and then she laughed. Not a forced laugh, but free, unrestrained joy that rang through the courtyard. He spun, hopped, rolled on the grass like a street performer, and Emily's laughter grew louder, brighter, alive again. He introduced himself simply as Leo. No one knew his full story, only whispers. That he had no home, some nights under a bridge, others in unfinished buildings, curled against the cold. And in that moment, both their lives had begun to change. Have you ever experienced something like this? Share it in the comments, and tell us where you're watching from. No one had ever seen Leo with parents or siblings. His only bed was the unforgiving pavement. What he did have, though, was a spark, his joy. When hunger gnawed at him and sleep refused to come, he danced. When drivers scolded him for asking at stoplights, he danced. On crowded sidewalks, in narrow alleys, anywhere, he danced. Sometimes strangers tossed him a few coins, often they didn't. But still, dancing gave him life. His movements were his language, his shield, his way of escaping the pain of being invisible. And yet, destiny was waiting just beyond a gate. That afternoon, wandering near the wealthy estate, Leo spotted Emily through a gap in the hedge. Her head leaned against the arm of her wheelchair, her eyes fixed on the ground with a heaviness he knew too well. A knot tightened in his chest. I know what sadness feels like, he thought. But maybe, if I dance, I can make her smile. Maybe I can chase it away, So Leo slipped through the hedge and stepped into the garden. He launched into a playful routine, twisting, pulling silly faces, exaggerating every step until he looked like a street performer. And then it happened. Emily's laugh burst out, pure and sudden. To Leo, it felt like a prize greater than food on an empty stomach. Her joy was contagious, his heart raced, his body moved faster. Each clap, each giggle, gave him new strength. For those precious minutes, Leo forgot he was barefoot, hungry, homeless. He wasn't a beggar, he wasn't invisible. He was just a child, bringing joy to another child. But what he didn't know, his dance was doing far more than lifting Emily's spirits. It was changing both of their lives forever. Inside the mansion, Victor Harrington froze. He heard a sound he thought he'd lost forever. Laughter. His daughter's laughter. He rushed to the balcony and stopped in shock. Emily was clapping, her eyes alive again. And the reason wasn't medicine, or therapy, or even his fortune. It was a barefoot boy, spinning and stumbling wildly in his garden. Victor's first reaction was fury. How had this ragged child slipped past his guards? What if he was dangerous? His fists clenched, he was ready to shout, ready to drive the boy away. But then he saw Emily's face. Her cheeks were glowing, her arms clapped with an energy he hadn't seen in months. Her back was straight. And her laughter, loud, uncontrolled, full of life, filled the air. Victor froze again, but not from anger. For months, he had poured fortunes into doctors and treatments. All had failed. Yet in less than 10 minutes, this barefoot boy had brought his daughter back to life. Victor hid behind a marble pillar, his chest tightening with something he had almost forgotten. Hope. As Leo danced and Emily laughed, Victor realized something astonishing. This street boy was doing what all his wealth could not. And the very next afternoon, Leo returned, slipping in the same way he had the first time. Quiet, quick, and filled with hope. Leo didn't slip into the estate to steal, he came with a mission burning in his chest, to make Emily laugh again. The night before, he had slept behind a shuttered shop, stomach growling with hunger. But when morning came, he woke with a smile. He had found something stronger than food, purpose. As he slipped through the hedge, he saw Emily waiting near the gate. Her eyes sparkled, her hands already lifted in anticipation. The air was charged, as if something important was about to happen. "Ready?" he asked, raising his arms like a circus clown. Emily giggled and nodded. But before he could move, Victor Harrington stepped into view. Leo froze. That stern expression, he knew it well. The kind of look that came before a beating, or being chased away. His breath caught, his legs tensed, ready to run. Then Emily's voice shattered the silence. "Daddy, please, don't send him away. Please." Victor studied the boy closely for the first time. A torn shirt, shorts hanging loose, bare feet scarred, knees marked with battles no child should have endured. Yet those eyes, steady. Not defiant, not timid, just steady. "What's your name?" Victor asked. "Leo," the boy replied. "Why did you come here?" Leo swallowed hard. "I saw her. She looked so sad. I thought if I danced, maybe she'd laugh. I didn't come to take anything, sir. I only came to give, something small. I can leave after." Simple words, but to Victor, they fell like rain on dry earth. "Where do you stay?" he asked, softer now. "Anywhere," Leo said quietly, "the bus station, under bridges. Sometimes I dance for coins. Sometimes I just dance, so hunger won't win." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "He makes me happy, Daddy." Victor turned to his daughter. Her cheeks glowed, her back straighter than usual. And then, her toes twitched, a small movement, but one he hadn't seen in months. He drew in a slow breath. "All right," he said firmly, "you can stay today. Out here, where I can see you. No trouble. Understood?" Leo nodded quickly, relief flooding his face. He turned to Emily with a grin. "Showtime?" She clapped eagerly. And just like that, the garden became their stage once more. One day became three became a week. Victor gave new orders to the guards. "Let him in at 4. He leaves at 6. He eats before he goes." Leo arrived each afternoon with fresh ideas. He spun like a top, told wild stories from the bus station, acted out quarrels between drivers and passengers. He made sound effects, tripped dramatically, bowed like a king, and crossed his eyes until Emily's laughter shook her whole body. But something deeper was happening. Emily's hands grew stronger from clapping. She raised her arms to copy Leo's moves. Her voice, once soft, became louder, more confident, again. "Do it like yesterday." She even tried spinning her wheelchair in small circles as he twirled on the grass. Each tiny turn felt like a victory. And Victor noticed it all. He watched in silence. How Leo never asked for anything. How he always searched Emily's face before trying a joke. And he realized something extraordinary was unfolding before his eyes. Leo never asked for anything more than applause. And when food was offered, he ate slowly, carefully, like someone who knew what it meant to survive on a single meal a day. Each evening after Leo left, Emily spoke more than she had in months. "Daddy, did you see when he pretended to be a siren? Daddy, today I felt something in my toes. Daddy, can he come tomorrow?" During a routine hospital visit, the doctor was astonished. "Her engagement is returning," he said, examining Emily closely. "This kind of emotional spark can activate recovery pathways. We can't always explain it scientifically, but whatever you're doing, keep it going." That night, Victor stood alone in the garden where Leo had danced. For the first time in years, he felt gratitude that had nothing to do with wealth. He whispered into the warm night air, "Thank you, boy," and though no one heard, the stillness of the garden seemed to echo it back. Then, on an ordinary afternoon when no one expected miracles, everything changed. The sun dipped low, shadows stretched across the lawn, and a radio somewhere played an old folk tune. Leo was in the middle of his slow-motion dance, moving as though time itself had thickened. Emily laughed so hard she forgot to hold her blanket. "Wait," she gasped, "let me try something." She pressed her hands firmly against the armrests of her wheelchair, her face tightened with determination. For a moment, nothing. Then her shoulders rose, her chest lifted, and slowly, trembling, her hips left the seat. An inch. Then 2. She held herself there for 3 long counts. 1, Leo whispered, eyes wide. 2, Victor counted, stepping forward without thinking. 3, Emily breathed before lowering herself back, panting, smiling, eyes brimming with tears. A hush fell over the garden. But this wasn't the heavy silence of loss. It was the sacred silence that comes after an answered prayer. Then Leo shouted, "You did it! You did it!" He spun in delight, dropped to his knees beside her, and declared, "Champion." Victor knelt on the other side, his hands trembling as he touched his daughter's forehead. "You are so brave," he whispered, "I'm proud of you." Emily reached out with both hands, one for her father, one for her friend. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "When he dances, I feel like I can move." They didn't share it with the world, not yet. No photos, no headlines, just more laughter, more practice, more small movements that grew into something remarkable. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. He paced the marble corridors of his mansion, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He thought of Emily's eyes lighting up each time Leo appeared, of her stronger voice when she called for him. Then he thought of his pride, his image, his reputation. A war raged inside his chest, between pride and love, between what society expected and what his heart whispered. By dawn, Victor understood. Reputation would never heal his daughter. Money had failed to restore her laughter. But Leo, a boy with nothing, had given Emily something priceless, hope. For the first time, Victor admitted to himself. Maybe wealth isn't the greatest power. Maybe kindness is. One Saturday afternoon, he called Leo to sit with him in the garden. This time, the boy wasn't asked to dance, he was asked to share his story. "Tell me about yourself," Victor said. Leo hesitated, no one ever asked about him. People usually just saw the dirt on his clothes and waved him away. But Victor's eyes were steady, almost gentle. "I don't know where I was born," Leo began softly. "My mother died when I was small. My father left. Sometimes women at the market gave me food, but when I grew older, they stopped. So I stayed with other boys at the bus station. We sleep under bridges or in empty shops if we're lucky. Victor listened, his chest tightening. Why do you dance? He asked. Leo gave a faint smile. When you're hungry, your body feels heavy. If you just sit, the hunger wins. But if you move, if you dance, it feels lighter. People laugh. Sometimes they give me coins. Sometimes they don't. But at least I don't feel invisible. Victor nodded slowly. He had studied in the finest schools, eaten at the best tables, traveled the globe. Yet sitting in front of him was a boy who had discovered life's deepest truth without any teacher. Joy is strength for today, Victor said firmly. And you are not invisible anymore. You are part of this house. Leo blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. But when Emily wheeled herself closer, grabbed his hand, and smiled brightly, he realized he wasn't just a boy from the streets anymore, he was becoming family. The true turning point came on an afternoon that began like any other. The sun was warm, flowers swayed in the breeze, and Leo was halfway through his silly robot dance while Emily clapped. Suddenly, she shouted, "I want to try standing." Even surprising herself. Leo froze mid-move. What? I mean it, she insisted, her voice firm. Victor, seated nearby, tensed with fear. He didn't want her to hurt herself, but deep down, he knew he couldn't hold her back. Emily placed her hands firmly on her wheelchair handles. Her arms shook, but she didn't stop. She pushed hard, her face tight with effort. Slowly, painfully, she rose. One knee quivered, then the other straightened slightly. She wasn't standing tall, but she was up, her feet pressing against the ground, her body upright for the first time since the accident. Victor's heart pounded, the guards at the gate froze, even the maids nearby gasped in shock. Leo screamed with joy, spinning in circles before dropping to his knees. You did it! You're standing, Emily. You're standing. Emily held herself upright for 3 trembling seconds, her small frame shaking like a leaf in the wind. Then she eased back into her chair. But instead of tears, she laughed. I stood. Did you see me, Daddy? I stood. Victor knelt beside her, his vision blurred with tears. He took her trembling hands in his. I saw, sweetheart, he whispered, voice breaking. And I have never been prouder. That day, the mansion was no longer filled with silence. It rang with laughter, claps, and shouts of joy. A turning point had arrived, and Victor knew it. His daughter's healing had begun, and it all started with a boy who once had nothing but his dance. That night, long after Emily had fallen asleep, Victor sat in the quiet of his study. Papers lay untouched on his desk, his phone buzzed with unanswered messages. His thoughts were fixed on one thing, Leo. For weeks, this boy had brought life back to Emily. She laughed again, she moved again, she lived again. And tonight, she had stood. Even if only for a few seconds, it was nothing short of a miracle. Victor knew it wasn't chance, it was Leo. Later that night, he found Leo sitting quietly on the back steps. Arms wrapped around his knees, staring into the dark as though uncertain whether he belonged. Victor lowered himself beside him. You shouldn't be out here alone, he said gently. Leo shrugged. I'm used to it, sir. Not anymore, Victor replied, his voice steady with the weight of a promise. This is your home now. You're part of this family. You'll eat 3 meals a day. You'll go to school. And you'll never again have to wonder where to sleep. Leo's eyes widened, his voice trembling as he whispered, Thank you, sir. Victor turned fully toward him, his own eyes glistening. Listen to me, Leo. I know what you've given my daughter. You gave her something no money, no doctor, no medicine could provide: hope. And anyone who gives hope is not just worth knowing, they are worth loving. For the first time in his life, Leo felt truly seen. His throat tightened, tears sliding down his cheeks. That night, he lay on a soft bed under a safe roof, in a place he could finally call home. The cold concrete nights were behind him. It didn't take long for the story to spread across the city. A powerful tycoon had opened his doors to a boy from the streets. To some, it was reckless sentimentality. To others, an act of rare courage. Headlines shouted, "Magnate Harrington adopts street child." The city buzzed, divided between outrage and admiration. Some of Victor's business partners pulled him aside. "Victor, this could ruin your reputation. A street boy in your mansion? What if he steals? What if he disgraces you? Think of your image." But Victor had changed. He no longer bowed to shallow appearances. "My image," he said calmly. "My daughter is standing again. My daughter is smiling again. That is the only image I care about." Emily herself defended her friend to anyone who questioned him. "Leo is my friend. He makes me strong. If you don't like him, then you don't love me." Slowly, the voices of doubt faded. Neighbors began to whisper differently. Imagine, a boy from the streets helping Emily walk again. Maybe kindness is richer than wealth. And through it all, Leo remained humble. He didn't care for headlines or gossip. Each day he simply danced. Each day he laughed with Emily. Each day he shared his gift. The mansion that had once been heavy with silence was now alive with sound. Mornings began with Emily calling out for Leo, afternoons echoed with laughter as he performed his ridiculous routines. Evenings ended with shared meals, where Emily teased her father for smiling more often than before. Slowly, Emily's therapy improved. With Leo cheering at her side, she took small steps, then longer ones. She still relied on her wheelchair at times, but fear no longer held her captive. She was living again. Victor, too, was transformed. He was no longer just a tycoon chasing business ventures. He was a father rediscovering joy. And with Leo, he found himself taking on the role of a father once more, guiding, teaching, protecting. One day, Emily looked at Leo and whispered, "Now I'm not alone anymore. I have a brother." Victor laughed, but inside his heart swelled with pride. For the first time in years, his mansion was no longer just a grand house, it was a home. One golden evening, as the sun painted the horizon in shades of crimson, Victor stood in the garden watching Emily take careful steps with Leo holding her hand. Her laughter, mingled with his playful shouts, rose into the air. And in that moment, Victor understood a truth he had never truly known. Money was useful, yes. But true wealth was not in bank accounts or business deals. It was in his daughter's laughter. It was in the courage of a boy who had refused to let the streets break him. It was in the love that now bound them together. He whispered to himself, "I thought I had everything. But I had nothing until I met this boy." From that day forward, Victor Harrington became known not only as a wealthy man, but as a man of heart. Leo was no longer a homeless boy, he was family. And Emily's story became a beacon of hope for families everywhere. Proof that sometimes healing does not come from medicine or money, but from love, kindness, and unexpected friendship. If this story touched you, let us know in the comments, and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable stories. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and keep believing.